Love, infatuation, and manipulation. Otto Sanhuber was a victim of all three of these things. So besotted was he with Dolly Oesterreich that he'd not only sacrifice his own life, he'd also take that of another. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to let you know about this video's sponsor, Incogni. Did you know that at this very moment you could be helping to make someone a fortune if you shopped online or signed up to a social media platform or simply browsed a website? Chances are data brokers have personal information about you. This can include your name, home address, and even medical records, amongst other things. These companies then sell and resell your information until it's spread across a multitude of databases. This raises the chances of your sensitive data ending up in the hands of those with nefarious intentions. They could apply for a loan in your name, affecting your credit score, or use your contact details to bombard you with scam calls and emails. However, there is a way to fight back. Incogni not only shows you how many companies hold your details, but can also act on your behalf to force those companies to delete them. You can do this yourself by writing to each of these companies and following up to make sure they've followed through. But this can take years. With Incogni, all it takes are a few clicks and they will do the rest. If you'd be interested in this service, Incogni are offering 60% off for the first 100 people to sign up using the code WELLINEVER. Alternatively, simply click on the link below. Walburga Oesterreich, affectionately known to many as Dolly, was born Walburga Korschel on June 12, 1880 to German immigrant parents Charles and Magdalena Korschel. It is unknown, however, if she was born in Germany or if she was born in the US after the couple had emigrated. Walburga grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in an area that became home to many German immigrants. In 1889, her father passed away aged 34 years old from an undisclosed illness. Her mother never remarried and did the best she could to get by, raising Walburga and her younger sister alone. In an effort to help her small family, Dolly began working at a textile mill when she was 12. The mill primarily made aprons and was owned by Wilhelm Oesterreich, a German migrant who had done well for himself and who often hired others who had made their way from his homeland. Despite her age, Walburga quickly made friends and was said to be fun and full of energy. People were drawn to her, and she soon caught the attention of the mill owner's son, Fred Oesterreich. He was 3 years older and stood to inherit his father's business. In contrast to Dolly, he was said to be distant and unlikable, but the pair seemed to hit it off, and in 1897 they were married. The couple moved in together in a house across the road from the textile mill, and due to Fred's wealth, Walburga was able to quit her job there to become a stay-at-home wife. The marriage wasn't a happy one, at least for Dolly, who felt Fred always put the business before her needs. Not to be denied, it was rumoured that she would invite lovers into their home during the day while he was away at work. On August 20th, 1900, Walburga gave birth to the couple's one and only child, a boy named Raymond Harold Oesterreich. However, unfortunately, on July 15th, 1910, at just 9 years old, Raymond passed away. The cause of his death is unknown. It's claimed her unfaithfulness dramatically increased after death, potentially as a way to cope with the loneliness she would have felt after losing their son. 3 years later, in 1913, 33-year-old Walburga was introduced to 17-year-old Otto Sanhuber. Otto was a sewing machine repairman who worked for her husband, and though he was quiet and shy, Dolly took an instant shine to him. The teenager was an orphan who never knew his birth parents and had a rough childhood in and out of several orphanages. Knowing that her love interest was a sewing machine repairman, Walburga called her husband at work, saying her sewing machine was broken and she needed someone to fix it. Completely unaware of his wife's intentions, Fred sent Otto to his home to take care of the situation. Dolly opened the door in a silk robe, stockings doused in perfume, and nothing else. This marked the beginning of an intense affair that would last a decade. At the beginning of their romance, Dolly and Otto would often meet in hotels away from prying eyes. However, as time progressed, the pair became more brazen and would pursue their carnality in the Oesterreich home. If discovered, their actions would have been seen as utterly outrageous, and so, to ward off suspicion from neighbours, Walburga told them that Otto was her homeless half-brother. This tale would only satisfy their curiosity for so long. However, Dolly would soon concoct a new, more Machiavellian plan to disguise the affair. She convinced Otto to quit his job and move into the attic, descending only when Fred was at work. Sanhuber was so consumed in their relationship by this stage that he agreed. The attic was accessible only through a panel in the ceiling of the closet of the master bedroom, and Dolly quickly set about furnishing the space with a bed, books, lamps, and writing materials. During the day, Otto would leave the attic and do housework at the residence. He cooked, he cleaned, and he took care of his lover's needs. He later described himself as Walburga's sex slave, claiming she had him make love to her up to 8 times a day. At night, when Fred was home, Otto would live in total silence in the attic, reading and writing science fiction stories. Walburga would mail these stories to potential publishers for him. At this point in time, Fred still had no idea that his wife was having an affair or that his ex-employee was living meters above him. Some reports claim that on several occasions, Fred had made comments on noises he had heard coming from the loft and had seen shadows outside his door, but he believed the house was haunted. This bizarre living situation continued for the next 4 years until 1918, when the opening of a new textile mill led the Oesterreichs to Los Angeles. Dolly only agreed to the move on the condition that she could choose their new residence, ensuring it had an attic. She prepared her lover's new nook and sent him ahead so as to have him already installed in the property on her and Fred's arrival. As bizarre as this may seem, it wasn't the first rodeo for the pair. While in Milwaukee, the Oesterreichs moved house several times. Each time, Dolly would ensure the new property had an attic or hidden room. The Oesterreichs' marriage was already on the rocks, and the move to L.A. only served to add fuel to flames. Fred was an alcoholic, and the move saw his drinking grow heavier. This led to arguments between he and Dolly, growing more frequent and more violent, eventually turning deadly in bizarre circumstances. At 11 p.m. on August 22nd, 1922, Otto heard Walburga and Fred return home after an evening out with their friends. The pair were arguing loudly, and as the argument escalated, Otto heard a loud thump. Fearing his lover's life was in danger, Otto raced down from the attic and retrieved 2 pistols from the dresser in the master bedroom. He then entered the room where the fight was taking place. Fred saw Otto and immediately recognized him, and putting 2 and 2 together, he became furious. Things quickly became physical, and during the struggle, Otto shot Fred 3 times, killing him instantly. Without skipping a beat, the lovers quickly set about making it seem as though Fred had been killed as part of a home invasion. Dolly gave Sanhuber cash and valuables from around the house. He then locked her in a closet and retreated to the attic before the police, roused by the gunshots and now Dolly's screams, arrived at the home. She told them that she hadn't got a good look at the burglars, but they had come in, shot her husband, and then they pushed her into the closet and locked it. The case initially perplexed authorities, but Dolly's version of events didn't sit right with Detective Herman Klein. Though with little evidence against her, Mrs. Oesterreich was left to her own devices. With the death of her husband, she had inherited a small fortune which she used to buy a new house. She also hired a lawyer, Herman Shapiro, with whom she promptly started a relationship. For a time, life continued much as it had done before, with Otto hidden in a secret room in the new property, while Herman and his lover went about their life below. However, it would soon become apparent that Dolly had made numerous incriminating mistakes. Firstly, in an effort to dispose of the murder weapons, she had given them to two people, her neighbour, Jay Farber, and another of her lovers, actor Roy Klum. She told them both she wished to get rid of the weapons in case police mistook them as the ones used in the murder. Her second mistake was to give the diamond watch, which she said had been stolen from her dead husband, as a birthday gift to Herman Shapiro. These actions would come back to bite Mrs. Oesterreich in July 1923. Klum, who had thrown the weapon he was given into the La Brea tar pit, had apparently tried to extort money from Dolly to keep him silent. When she refused to pay, he and Farber, who had become fearful of potential repercussions, told the police their stories. Another nail in the coffin came when Detective Herman Klein, who had visited the Oesterreich property several times, noticed the watch on Shapiro's arm. He explained where it had come from, and Dolly was promptly arrested. It would be during her stay at the L.A. County Jail that she would make her third mistake. On July 14th, Shapiro paid Dolly a visit. She was led into the attorney's room, and there she beckoned Herman to a corner where their conversation couldn't be heard. Her face was full of terror as she explained that she hadn't slept that night through fear. She told Shapiro about Otto, stating that no one must know about him before asking, quote, "Go to the house and to my room and to the clothes closet, and then drum on the wall with your fingernails, and then he will appear. Do not be afraid of him. You do not know him, but he knows you. He is innocent. He will not harm you." End quote. Shocked and perhaps a little disbelieving, Herman did as he had been asked, later stating, quote, "I went to the house, entered the bedroom, but did not rap. I whistled from sheer nervousness. The closet door was open. Suddenly, I saw an arm extend itself from the wall, and a voice said, 'Hello, Herman. Don't be afraid of me.'" End quote. Otto, excited about talking to someone other than Dolly for the first time in 10 years, proceeded to tell Shapiro everything about his life to that point. His relationship with Walburga, the truth about what had happened to her husband, and how he now saw Detective Klein as his nemesis. After the men's mutual excitement had died down, Shapiro ordered Otto to leave. Thrust out into the world, Otto fled to Canada. There, in honor of his apparent rival, he changed his name to Walter Klein, found a job as a janitor, and even got married. On January 15, 1925, after her trial had been adjourned several times due to ill health, murder charges against Walburga Oesterreich were dropped after a district attorney stated there was reasonable certainty that a conviction could not be obtained. In 1926, a familiar face appeared in L.A. Otto Sanhuber, still living under the alias of Walter Klein, returned to California with his wife. Despite creating a new life for himself, he still desired to be close to Dolly, who he saw as the only person who cared if he lived or died. Rude. Over the next few years, Dolly and Herman's relationship began to sour as the pair clashed over business interests and affairs. By 1930, things had eventually reached a point where Shapiro claims Dolly and another man attacked him. Furious and potentially fearing for his life, he went to the police and spilt his guts about the murder of Fred Oesterreich and the man in the attic. Otto and Dolly were soon arrested, and the revelation of their bizarre relationship filled newspapers, readers equally enthralled and appalled. Despite the story's intriguing twists and turns, the trial was seen as anticlimactic. Sanhuber's trial took place on July 11, 1930, and he was found guilty of manslaughter. However, the crime had occurred 8 years prior, and since the statute of limitations for manslaughter was 7 years, he was set free. Sanhuber would quickly fade from the public eye, living out the rest of his life as Walter Klein. Walburga's trial began on August the 4th, and she claimed that she had slipped on a rug, and this was the noise Otto had heard. She states he then shot at Fred before the two fought, and Fred was killed. After 3 days of deadlock, the jury was discharged on August 25th before all charges against Dolly were dropped on December 8th. Despite all that had gone on, Walburga would spend the rest of her life in L.A., passing away in April 1961 at the age of 80. So what do you make of this bizarre case? Have you heard of a stranger love triangle? Let us know in the comments below. Right then, take care, and I'll see you next time with another story to make you say, well, I never.